in order to clear the Capstone dungeon as early as you can, i.e. level 40, it's all about managing breakpoints and power spikes, okay? So now we have a two-handed staff level 40, so we're good on the damage of our weapon. Next, we are going to carefully imprint our gear, selecting specific pieces to hold the aspects we've been farming from level 1 to level 15. So here is on the stash all the yellow items and legendary that I got from my Domhaine Tunnel runs. Now, your armor chest is very important because that's the armor slot that provides the most armor among your armor items. So for that reason, that's the first thing you want to imprint. You see now I have all those yellow items to choose from. It's all about the cost that is going to cost you to imprint the item. Reminder, from eye level 200 to 299, that's 6 veil crystals. 3 to 399, that's 10 veil crystals. 400 to 499, that's 6 veil crystals and 1 legendary. And if you can see here in my inventory, I have 2 legendaries that I'm going to salvage, and hopefully I get one of those legendary materials so that I can imprint my chest armor of eye level 400 to 499. I don't recommend going 500 plus because it's gonna cost you 10 veil crystals and 2 of those legendary salvage materials. So as you see here, I'm going to excuse me, I'm going to salvage my 2 legendaries, I think here. I'm just checking if, well, anyway, even if I looted some GG items, I wanted to reflect a run where you don't get lucky, or that lucky, should I say. So I always choose like the least best option. But anyway, I recycle and I got 2. I got pretty lucky. You will realistically get 1. Getting 2 is a lucky run. Out of the 7-8 runs I did, I always got 1. Sometimes I get 2, and I think maybe one time I got 0. But if you get 1, you're going to want to imprint your chest armor of level like up to 499. Choose your best one because it's going to give you a lot of armor. Choose the best affixes among all the armors you have in the range of 400 to 499. And on the chest armor, you're going to imprint the aspect of might, the one that's reducing damage taken by 20% for 2 seconds after you cast a basic skill. You want it on the chest armor because eventually, if you find the unique that's grouping enemies when you teleport, you're going to remove completely the aspect of might from your build and you're going to use that unique. But otherwise, as you upgrade your gear, on your sacred chest armor, you're going to keep the aspect of might. On your ancestral chest armor, you're going to keep your aspect of might all the way to 100. That's why you want it there. There's a reason for that. Now, the second best item for your armor is going to be your helm. And for that same reason, if you have a second legendary salvage material, armor, legendary material, you're going to want to imprint on a helm that's of level 400 to 499. It's unlikely that you get one, but if you do this. If you don't, you're going to imprint on an item from 300 to 399. It's only going to cost you 10 veiled crystals, which you're going to have if you follow the leveling route that I posted before. And TLDR, in the end, at imprinting, if you don't have enough veil crystals, you can always go back to the altar of ruin and open the magic chest to get more and more rare items and salvage them until you get the count of veil crystals that you need. Okay, so chest armor 400 to 499, helm 300 to 399, and you're going to put the it's not the snow veil, the snow guard aspect. It says, while standing on your blizzard and for 3 seconds after leaving it, you reduce incoming damage by 20%. This is huge. those two damage reduction, aspect of might and aspect of snow guard, are very important for toughness on a dungeon, on a capstone dungeon, where enemies are going to be level 50 while you are level 40. And then, by the way, after the capstone dungeon, you're going to enter world tier 3. You will be level 40 to 41, or maybe a little bit more, and enemies are going to be level 55. So you'll be glad to have followed all the instructions I gave, because you'll see it's going to be fairly easy, honestly, if you follow this guide. Next, it's going to be your pants, the third best source for armor. On this one, you're going to want to imprint, apologies, my voice still did not fully recover. On the pants, you're going to want to imprint an item of level 300 to 399 for 10 veiled crystals. Once again, because we are maximizing armor. And you're going to imprint the disobedience on your pants. Next, the gloves. So on the gloves, it's not very important, the eye level I mean, because this is not giving you a lot of armor. So for the gloves, I recommend you stick to the 200 to 299 range, where it's only costing you 6 veiled crystals. Just pick your best, or maybe you're only going to have one gloves from that range, and use that. And you're going to imprint the piercing cold aspect, so that ice shards will pierce 3 times and will deal 25% less damage per enemy hit beyond the first. And those gloves, level 200 to level 299, is the reason why you kept all rare items during your runs from level 16 to 14. That's why you stored everything, because you want to have a pair of gloves that's between level 200 to 299. Maybe you have several, choose the best. Then comes the jewelry. So jewelry is interesting because it gets changed in season 2. I believe that in the first capstone dungeon, the enemies do mostly lightning damage. To me, it looks like sacred damage, but since sacred damage doesn't exist in Diablo 4, I think it is lightning damage. So you want to choose one ring, one season 2 ring, that as prefix is going to have all resistance, plus another prefix that's going to have a resistance to one element. Choose one that has resistance to lightning. And you want to have a range between 400 to 499 if you were able to loot one jewelry legendary, and when you salvaged it, it did yield a legendary material. If that's the case, go for a ring between 400 to 499 eye level. If not, go for 300 to 399. It's going to cost you 10 veil crystals. Or if you don't have any rings with lightning resistance, just go for 200 to 299 for 6 veiled crystals. What are you going to imprint? On your first ring, the mandatory ring, you're going to imprint the aspect of efficiency, where after casting a basic skill, your next core or mastery skill is going to cost you 15% less mana. So you want that. That's mandatory. For the second ring, it's not mandatory. It's going to be the Prodigy's ring. We're going to see that in a second. After this ring, you're going to imprint your amulet. For the amulet, stay in the range of 200 to 299 for 6 veiled crystals and imprint the aspect of control. With this setup, you have all the legendaries that are mandatory. 3 defensive one build enabling one, the piercing cold, 1 offensive one, control, 1 mana management one, efficiency. And now, if you do have some spare veil crystals, and if you don't, but you really want to get that ring, you could go back to Altar of Ruin, to the magic chest, and imprint the Prodigy's aspect on your second ring. Every time you pop a cooldown, it's going to give you 15 mana, which is nice to have, but not mandatory. Okay, this, my friends, is the setup that will allow you to very easily clear the first capstone dungeon while you are level 40, 3 hours into season 2. This is the most optimized way to do things. a high-level weapon, the best-in-slot legendaries, enough gold and materials to do all of that, thanks to the farming route that I did share with you guys, and basically like the most optimized time you can have on that. Once again, if you are a better player than me when it comes to the execution, you might be below the 3 hours minute mark. Okay, so now that we did imprint everything, let's move forward in the video. This is me imprinting everything, carefully choosing what I imprint. Of course, you have to, okay, season 2, you're going to be able to craft gems. If you do have sockets on your gear, you're going to, of course, get rubies and skulls. But the difference here between here and season 2 is that season 2, you would have collected a lot of materials that will enable you to craft. Whereas here, I only relied on things that I looted. So I think you're going to have an easier time crafting in season 2. We'll see. If one of the bosses you killed got you the material that's used to imprint a socket on an item, go for it and get an additional skull or ruby on your gear. This will help on the defensive side. Let's have a look at how you're going to spend your skill points before taking down the first Capstone dungeon. So in the build planner that I shared, you have the first 3 links, we already talked about it, and the fourth one is going to be the build for the first Capstone dungeon, the Ice Shard build. Okay, let's look at the skills. This is a level 40 exactly, or maybe 41 character. So you want Frostbolt as your basic skill because of the synergies with the Ring of Efficiency and of the aspect of might. And you want Glinted Frostbolt in order to help even further on the mana recovery. Why is it important? Well, first because choking on mana sucks, but second because you want to benefit from that 9% damage multiplier. So you want to stay above 50 mana in that range. And this setup I have for you will tremendously help you in achieving that. So you get those 4 points here, 5 points in Ice Shards. Ice Shards makes enemies vulnerable. It has been nerfed, but it's not going to impact your leveling because you're not likely to get high numbers on vulnerable damage. So this means a 1.2 damage multiplier. This is big, and this is why Ice Shards is, in my opinion, the best build from level 40 all the way to level 100. I tried many different other things, Chain Lightning, whatever fire build you want. Nothing beats Ice Shards. I mean, on default aspects and stuff. If you are very lucky in the loot and you can already assemble an endgame build during a leveling, then go for it. But if you can't, then assemble this build. That's the best build that will get you the fastest to level 100. You want a Shimmering Flame Shield for health regeneration, Shimmering Teleport for damage mitigation, 3 points in Glass Cannon for the multiplier. You want Mystical Frost Nova to make enemies vulnerable because it's gonna burst enemies with your Ice Shard enchantment. Really handy for the second part of the Capstone dungeon. You want those points here. The uptime of Mana Shield will not be big because we're running Avalanche, which makes your spells free. So somehow it can decrease the uptime of Mana Shield, but you still want to get it. 21% damage reduction on top of the 20 and 20 you have will make you very, very tanky. You want the shield when you pop a cooldown, only 1 point in Align the Elements. If you happen to be level 43 or 44 because you did loot a staff that has a level requirement of 44, the next points you want to put them here and Align the Elements along potent warding for lightning damage, lightning resistance. That's gonna matter in season 2. Those are the points you're going to spend if you're higher than level 40 or 41 in this setup. You want to have Blizzard for 2 reasons. The first one is because it's an enabler for this 20% damage reduction, which is huge. The second reason is for this node, which is very underrated but very strong. while you have an active blizzard out, your core skills cost 20% less mana. So your ice shards will cost 15% less mana because of this thing, and 20% less mana because of that node. And this is big. This, along Avalanche and Frigid Breeze, are really gonna make sure that you're not going to choke on mana so early in the game. Remember, this is just 3 hours playtime and tackling the Capstone dungeon already on a naked character. So Blizzard is huge. That's the reason why we're not including Ice Armor. This is a lot better, trust me, friends. Next, you want all the multipliers here. This, by the way, when enemies are frozen, they're also chilled. So damage is multiplied by 1.18 times 1.09. So that's double dips, if you will. And you want those 1.15 and 1.12 multipliers because they will be up all the time when you're fighting elites or any mob for this one. Okay, and then Avalanche, which makes Blizzard or Ice Shards, sometimes free, and also includes a 40% multiplier, which is big. So that's the setup. From here, maybe I would spend the next 3 points in potent warding and the next 2 points in align the elements. For enchantments, of course, you want Ice Shards enchantment for the burst potential with Frost Nova. Frost Nova has a very long cooldown, 24 seconds. Yeah, you're going to reduce it to 20 seconds if you kill everything. 20 seconds is very long. So we need a way to freeze enemies when this is on cooldown, because we have a multiplier here, 38%. Ice Shards itself has a 25% multiplier, and we have 2 multipliers here that rely on crowd control. How do we do that? We run Frostbolt enchantment. It applies direct damage from skill, so not Blizzard, because this is damage over time, but the damage of your Frostbolt and of Ice Shard is going to apply up to 15% chill, from 1 to 15, depending on the lucky hit chance of each of those spells. So I didn't run the math, it's going to be from 1 to 15%. Plus, Frostbolt is already as a spell applying 15%. Plus, Blizzard is chilling enemies when they stand on top of it. So this, all in all, will help you freeze enemies faster in order to benefit from those multipliers and really optimize your damage output. This is the best setup for taking down the Capstone dungeon at level 40, friends. Oh, and before I forget, you want to upgrade your items, all of them, 2 times, 2 out of 4, because you have the resources to go up to 2. Don't go for upgrades number 3 and 4. First, you're not going to be able to afford it, but that's a waste of material, even if you could afford it. Don't do that. Now, let's look at how we're going to clear the Capstone dungeon. On to the Capstone dungeon. Okay. So you probably know that dungeon very well, so I'm not going to explain everything, but you need to understand what's the spell rotation from this build we have. Okay, first things first, you're very tanky. You can just run and go to the objectives. You can take a few hits for enemy, that's not going to one-shot you. And okay, here we go. Now, the spell rotation for this build is gonna be Frostbolt, in order to have might up and to decrease the cost of Blizzard or Ice Shard by 15%. Then you're going to fire a Blizzard in order to get 20% damage reduction and in order to decrease the cost of your core skills, i.e. Ice Shards, by 20%. Then you'll go for another Frostbolt and Ice Shard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard. So the setup is Frostbolt, Blizzard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard, Blizzard expires, Frostbolt, Blizzard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard, Frostbolt, Ice Shard. You get the idea, okay? The idea is you want to have the aspect of might up all the time. You want to have the aspect of Snow Guard up most of the time, at least all the time during combat, and you want your Blizzards and your Ice Shards mana cost to be reduced by 15% in the case of Blizzard, 15 times 20 in the case of Ice Shards. This is what is going to allow you to stay in the plus 50 mana range for your multipliers and to not mana choke, which is annoying, okay? So that's how the build plays. See, I engage, it's gonna teleport. I'm looking where it teleports, okay, I re-engage. Well, in this case, I burst him a little bit. After I burst, I'm probably gonna go, well, no, I just burst him all the way because my first Nova was up. But let's look at another fight. This one was interesting, the next one. So this one's gone, and then, oh, it's back. Well, you have also to consider that when it's frozen, you don't want to go frostbolt thing, frostbolt that, frostbolt this, frostbolt that. You want to burst him because freeze only lasts 3 seconds. So there's that also. If it's frozen, just go ham on ice shards. But when Frost Nova is on cooldown, and you're not going to burst him out, you want to go the way I described with those spell rotation. I think you're going to see it most during the boss fights. Yeah, let's look at the boss fights. So, Frostbolt, Blizzard. Frostbolt, well, I'm able to freeze one, so I'm going to burst him down before the freeze expires. So that's one gone. Then Frostbolt, Blizzard. Well, you get the idea. It's just that when they get frozen, I'm tempted to burst them out. But you get the spirit, right? That's how it's gonna play. And you're going to kill the boss at 3 hours, 30 minutes playtime, probably less if you are a better player than I am, okay? Let's move on. So the second part is very annoying. I don't like that map. You really have to use Frost Nova efficiently because there are many enemies, they are spread out, it's annoying. So use Frost Nova efficiently here to really try to clear the dungeon as fast as possible. But here you see Frost Nova's on cooldown, so I'm really making use of my blizzards and frostbolts here. Even though when they get frozen, I get tempted a lot not to cast Frostbolt and to go for Ice Shards all the way while they are frozen. Okay, so let's move on. Here's the boss. Okay, so this build, yeah, that's a good example to show you. This build is very tanky. This boss is level 50, you're level 41. 1, 2, and 3. I got hit by all 3. That's how much I suck when I'm not paying attention. I'm a better theory crafter than a player, okay? But since I'm a good theory crafter, I theory crafted a build where I can hit those 3 shots and still survive. So that's the idea of what I've been doing. So you don't have to be the one. Oh no, I dodged that one. 2, and I get hit by 2 out of 3. If you're not a good player, don't worry. You can do that. This is hardcore viable. Hardcore, you want to be a little bit more careful, of course, because this is hardcore, but you are very tanky, so you should be able to make the most out of that power spike you have right here, right now. 3 hours, 30-minute playtime into Season 2 on a naked character, okay? This is, I believe it's huge. It's a good optimization of what you can do and what you should do as a Season 2 start on the Sorcerer class. If you do it 3 hours and 15 minutes, first let me know in the comments. I'll be very proud of you and also somehow very proud of me for being able to pass you that information. But 3 hours, 15 minutes here is good, is very good. You're doing great if you're at that stage. And if you follow the rest of the instructions, you will be level 100 in no time. Honestly, I expect it to be 15 to 20 hours to 25 to 30 if you really take your sweet time, okay? It has to be somewhere in that range, which is great for this season, really. Congratulations, you just reached World Tier 3. You're going to change the difficulty at the statue in Keovashad. And now, what is our next priority? Well, you do have a very solid build, okay? You do deal a lot of damage, and you have a lot of toughness. Okay, so this is enough. This is good enough to start in World Tier 3 without problems. The enemies are going to be level 55 and you're level 41. Still, you're going to rock World Tier 3. Your next priority is to find sacred weapons. And at this stage of the leveling, what is the best place to find sacred weapons? Domhaine Tunnels, because the density is very high there. So that has the highest chance of yielding you sacred weapons, either one hand plus offhand or a two-handed staff. The chances are higher on a two-handed staff because otherwise you have to have two items instead of one. So out of all my runs, 7 or 8, I think most of the time, if not all the time, I went for a two-handed sacred staff as my first sacred weapon drop. Now, you're going to switch back to the firewall build. So let me just, well, you've been running that build before, but let's just give me a heads up on what has changed since you last ran it. In the build planner, head for the next build, which is World Tier 3 Domhaine Tunnels, okay? So that's pretty much the same build that you've been running before, except you have more skill points than last time you ran it, because you were only level 40. So you have those two here, 1, 2, 3, plus those 4. So what's new? What has changed? Let me check. Not much. Yes, this is what has changed. Before, you didn't have the aspect of control on your amulet, and now you do. So since you do have that, you want to run the crippling flames in order to proc the multiplier on your amulet. This is going to be handy because now the enemies are level 55 and you're level 41, or a little bit higher than that. The other thing that changed is now we are running Hoarfrost because we do want to burst enemies with Frost Nova. They are of higher level, so especially when you encounter the only elite that's in the first part of Domhaine Tunnel, you want to use Frost Nova to make him vulnerable. We are not running anymore the Shimmering Frost Nova to have a mana potion on Frost Nova. We are running Mystical Frost Nova to make him vulnerable, Hoarfrost to apply 2 multipliers, and Crippling Flame to enable this other multiplier. And this is what is going to allow you at level 41 to efficiently and comfortably, should I say, clear over and over and over Domhaine Tunnels from level 41 to level 45. Because the sacred weapon that you're going to drop is going to have a level requirement of 45. So you want to run this setup from level 41, or whatever your level you are at the moment, up to level 45. And I promise you guys, at level 45, bye-bye Domhaine Tunnels. We are not going there anymore. Alright, so let me just show you quickly. On this latest run, I'm sorry, can't speak. I was level 45 when I dropped this battle staff of sacred rarity here on the ground. See, level 45 and a half. And I was level 41 when I started doing over and over Domhaine Tunnels. Okay, so I think out of all the runs I did, there's only 1 or 2 where it didn't drop when I was 45 and I had to wait until 46 or maybe 47, but that was the maximum. So you realistically will get your weapon, your two-handed weapon, fairly quickly when doing that. Remember, you are in World Tier 3, so the bonus experience is 100%, and it's gonna be multiplied by an elixir if you're running 1, multiplied by 1.05. So, and the increase, like the level of the mobs is plus 10 because you're 41 up to 45 and they are 55. So it's also multiplied by 1.15 because the mobs are 10 levels higher than you are. So you're really cashing up on this experience gain. It will go very fast from level 41 to 45. That's why you might have to wait to 46 or 47 to loot an item like this one. Please, Wismeril, open your inventory so I can have a look at this. and that's what you're looking for. Now the eye level is gonna change in season 2, but you get the idea, because like now it's gonna scale differently. It's gonna scale with monster level. So before you would get a secret item from level 625 to 724, and now it's gonna be a little bit different. But anyway, you get the idea. You're looking for this. Once you loot that, you're done with Domhaine Tunnels, and we're going to head to the next part of this speed leveling rush to 100.